Hello, my friends, this is Paul, and welcome to A Common Touch of Fantasy. This is my wrap up for the third week of October. These are the things that I read during this week. If you would like a more detailed review of any of the things that I talk about, please check my website out at commontouchoffantasy.com. Also, just a reminder, the way I review things, a 1 is something that I disliked or hated. A 2 is something that I thought was just okay. I neither liked it nor disliked it. A 3 is something I liked. A 4 is something I really liked. And a 5 is something that I loved. I thought it was amazing. Now, the first two books I read were The Legacy by R.A. Salvatore and Starless Night by R.A. Salvatore. These are the first two books in the Legacy of the Dro series. And this is the third series in the Drizzt Saga. So this is book 7 and book 8. Instead of telling you a plot summary of something you probably don't really care much about, I'm going to tell you what these books are like. Now, the Drizzt books by R.A. Salvatore start with the Icewind Dale trilogy and then the Dark Elf trilogy. A lot of people read the Dark Elf trilogy before the Icewind Dale trilogy, though. And then the next one is The Legacy of the Dro, which these two books start. Now, TSR initially published these books, but Wizards of the Coast bought out TSR. Wizards of the Coast are the makers of Dungeons and Dragons. These books are very tied to the classes, the races, the magic that is in Dungeons and Dragons. These are what people consider to be tropey fantasy. There are elves, there are dwarves, there are Dro, there are goblins and orcs, there are magic creatures, there are magic items, magic weapons. The main goal of these books is to entertain. Most of these books are for a young adult audience. When these books first came out, there was no young adult classification, but if these books came out today, they would be considered young adult. I like these type of books because, one, I started reading these books when I was younger. I started with the R.A. Salvatore Drizzt books. I started with Dragonlance by Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss. These are the books I started reading fantasy with. Now, why do I like these books? And why do I still like these books? Well, I like these books because, number one, there are strong friendships in these books. There is a group of individuals that are all extremely different. Usually there are different races, different classes of people. So you have like the typical fighter, you have an assassin, you might have an archer, a ranger, you might have someone that wields magic. But just because it's kind of tropey doesn't mean it's bad. Tropey does not equal bad. I like the dialogue and the different aspects of relations between these different races and different classes because they're so unique and so different from each other. A lot of instances come up that provide either conflict, humor, or just a well-rounded plot. Now, these books aren't complicated by any means. For example, The Legacy, they have the Dro that Drizzt used to be a part of. They want him back so that they can sacrifice him to the Spider God because, Drizzt, he's a good Dro and no one likes good Dro. So they decide to attack Drizzt and his friends at the Dwarven Stronghold, and a bunch of things happen, and enemies of Drizzt face off against him, and just a bunch of crazy things happen. You know what to expect when you read these. You come into one of these books expecting a fun, adventurous group of friends battling evil. And that's what I like. You know what to expect when you come into reading these books. And that's why I enjoy them. I gave The Legacy a 2. I just thought it was okay. There was a lot of fighting, but there was not much plot, and the settings didn't change all that much. The whole thing was underground, in the Underdark. Starless Night was actually a much better book. I gave it a 3. There are more characters. There is more world building. There are characters that are traveling, meeting a bunch of different people, and there are just a lot more conflicts going on in this book than there is in The Legacy. The Legacy is definitely a big setup book for the rest of this series. And the big thing about R.A. Salvatore and these Drizzt books is that R.A. Salvatore writes some of the best fighting scenes in fantasy. I love his fighting scenes. They are imaginative, descriptive. The main reason why I believe that they're the best is because the description of the surroundings that are going on while these characters are fighting. You can picture in your mind's eye what the setting is while these two characters are dueling each other. You can visualize the moves that they're making with their swords, with the magic they're using, or their bow. You can visualize really easily what is happening in these books. So when it comes to fantasy books, I like things that are simple, simply written. However, the actual moves are complex, so that you'll have a complex move of a guy maybe, I don't know, doing a somersault while swinging a sword left to right while blocking with the other hand. That's the type of stuff that R.A. Salvatore writes, and there are so many fight scenes in these books, and that's why I enjoy them. And that is why I think that maybe some people might want to give them a try. Try the Dark Elf Trilogy books. Try the first book. And see if you like it. Give it to maybe a younger reader, a 13 or 14-year-old, and see if they like it. And I think it has a place within the fantasy reading genre, especially trying to get new readers into the genre. The other book I read was a series of short stories by Adam Johnson. Adam Johnson won the Pulitzer Prize for The Orphan Master's Son a few years ago, a book about North Korea. And then Fortune Smiles, he has 6 very unique short stories, and I enjoyed this. Some of the short stories were worse than others. The first one had to do with a guy that created a program that replicated the president that just got assassinated. He uses that program to talk to the president to try to deal with the fact that his wife is dying with a horrible illness. The second one was about a guy that just got his son from his ex-girlfriend, and she went somewhere, but then Katrina hit, and now he's stuck with his son that he barely knows. And he is taking care of him, and it's just all the ramifications of what happened. The third one is about a woman that is sick of cancer, and she's seeing all the changes in her family and what's happening around her. The fourth one was about a former warden of a prison, and this was in Soviet Russia, East Germany, and they would lock up people for, talking about anti-Soviet poetry, songs, literature, stuff like that. Anything from the West that was confiscated in the East, and they would put them in this prison. The ex-warden thought that this was just a place for people that made mistakes and definitely broke the law, but he says that no one ever got tortured here. Now, in the present day, this prison actually has become a memorial for people to come visit and to think about the people that were mistreated at this prison. And so the story is all about this ex-warden trying to kind of relive his past in a way and to figure out what actually happened, and for the reader to find out, is the warden telling the truth, or is this an actual prison where people got tortured or not? And that one was fantastic. Another one was about a pedophile, and it was a very unsettling, very disturbing piece because I've never read anything on it. Coming to an understanding of the mentality, the deviancy, the mindset that these people might have, a better understanding of it. It was educational in that regards, but it was a very unsettling story. And then the last story was about a man and his friend that escaped from North Korea, and now they're in South Korea and they're trying to deal with living in South Korea and having all these frivolous things around them in South Korea, but also missing North Korea. It's kind of funny. You would think that people from North Korea would just absolutely love the Western culture, but no, they actually miss the hard work. They miss the older culture that the North Koreans have. And that was an interesting story as well. So I gave this whole collection of short stories a 3 out of 5. My favorite was definitely the prison warden that was part of the Soviet Union. I enjoyed that one the most. I think it had the best plot, the best characters, and overall the best writing. The pedophile one was good. It was just very unsettling. And also, I liked the last one about the two men from North Korea. The other three are just okay and didn't really do a whole lot for me. So I gave this whole collection of short stories a 3 out of 5, but it makes me really want to read Adam Johnson's Pulitzer Prize winning novel, The Orphan Master's Son. I really want to read that now because I like his writing. I like his take on the world. It's a very unique outlook look on the world, and he's talking about things that usually aren't talked about a lot. I also read I read this afternoon actually. I read Rat Queens Volume 2. I liked Volume 1 better. Volume 2, the plot was just kind of all over the place. It wasn't very described well. The panels shifted really quickly to different storylines and different things. I found that while reading graphic novels the last few months, that when a graphic novel moves from one panel to the next without any transition, it's very jarring for me, and I almost get confused about, okay, so what happened in that last scene? Why are we in a new scene already? I don't understand. I thought the other scene wasn't over yet. And I don't like that at all in comic books or in graphic novels. And that happened in this book. The plot just was not good. The characters were good. I don't know, the language and the adult content kind of got my nerves on this one. So I'm just only going to give this one a 2. It was just okay. So those are the things that I read this last week. Thank you for watching. If you made it all the way through this, I appreciate it. Please comment below, like the video. Please subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. All those things, the links are below in the description box. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys again next week.